We were talking about the city,
So we're about to get started. If everyone would grab a seat.
working in the film industry there. And he's a real estate appraiser. That's his trade in Manhattan, well, in the city. And he makes good money out of it. They burn him out, he quits, and they call him and say, do you need my chair? It's like every 6 months he quits.
Is that over there? It's yours. No,
Good, how you doing?
for you? Yeah. Commissioner Bob was coming. I gotta move.
So I'd like to welcome everyone to the May 3rd Manatee County Council of Governments meeting. I'm Ken Schneier, I'm the mayor of Longboat Key. I'll be your host here today in the Longboat Key room, of all places. And if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we will move right into the agenda items. The first item is highlighted initiatives of the town of Longboat Key, and they will be presented by our town manager, Tom Harmer.
Good afternoon, Tom Harmer, the town manager. Thank you for having us today, the opportunity to host. We have 5 initiatives that I'm going to go through pretty quickly, just to kind of give you a snapshot of some of the things that are going on Longboat Key. And so we'll jump right in. The first is our undergrounding project, and many of you may have heard about that. It's almost a $50 million project. It takes all of the aerial utilities on the island and places them underground. So it's power, cable, any aerial devices will all be placed underground. It's about a 3.5-year project. We've been working on it now for coming up almost on 3 years. We're supposed to be substantially complete by December. We still believe we're on schedule to do that. I wanted to share with you a couple of images just to show kind of the significant changes that occur when you do that. There's a lot of reasons we're doing it: for resiliency, for safety, for aesthetics. And you can see on the left the picture with the existing power lines and the new streetlight poles that are replacing those older incandescent light poles. And then the picture on the right, this is in our southern portion of the island in the Country Club Shores neighborhood, where we're complete. That phase is completely done. And you can see that picture on the right now, where all that aerial utility wires, poles, lights have now been completely removed, and the difference that occurs with that. As part of this, our commission also said we have, and if you travel Longboat Key, you know this, we have service level issues with cell phones, mobile phones on the northern end of the island. And so one of the initiatives for the staff over the past couple of years was to find a way to have the AT&Ts and the Verizons and the other providers address that deficiency in service. We reached out to all of those providers. Verizon was the first one that responded, and so the commission recently approved them installing 9 new small cell devices on the island. So they're ordering the equipment. All that should be hopefully installed and operational by the end of this year. And we're working now with AT&T on a plan for them to do similar work. This is Gulf of Mexico Drive, State Road 789. And again, you can kind of see the aerial devices and then post removal by FP&L and how that looks without all of those above ground utilities. This was paid for and is being paid for by an assessment to all of the owners of property on the island. Here's an example of the poles that Verizon is installing. We have very strict height limits on the island, and so the small cell poles in the neighborhoods, there's 9 new devices being installed. 2 of those are in neighborhoods, and they're limited to 25 feet. And so you can kind of see on the left the 25-foot poles, and then those that are on the state road can go up to 35 feet. And there was significant negotiations with Verizon because they wanted to put taller poles. They'd prefer to put like a monopole, a very large pole. In our negotiations, they said they could do a 45-foot pole. We kept pushing them back to our code, and they ultimately agreed. So 7 of the poles will be 35 feet. 2 of them will be the 25 feet. So that's one of the projects that we have going on. Another one that's really important to the town is the creation of a town center. We have almost 5 acres that we've acquired over time next to the Publix. And we've been working on 3 different phases. Phase 1 was to really activate the site. There was an old restaurant there, the Amore Restaurant. That's been cleared out. And the site has been kind of opened up, seeded, so that we'd have grass growing and we could use it temporarily until we further refine it. Phase 2, which we're out to bid right now, is to put walkways, trees, lighting, restrooms, and a stage on the property. And the stage is privately funded. Our commission went out and asked our residents if they'd be interested in funding the stage. They came back within a few days, and we had a couple on the island that have committed $500,000 to pay for the stage. The town is paying about $1 million towards the phase 2 work to clean up the site. So you can see in the image, the orange walkways will be installed. There'll be lighting and trees and landscaping installed. There'll be a connectivity to our tennis center on the back side, and there will be a restroom on the property, and the stage will be developed. During this transition between phase 1 and phase 2, this season, we had 9 different events on site, and so these are just some images from the various events. We had 3 different concerts. We had an arts festival. We had a market. The actual Coquina Market came out once a month for 3 months. We had the Hermitage in Sarasota County came out with an Artist and Thinkers series, and so we had a number of events with tremendous response. Thousands and thousands of people showed up. We had one event that Kiwanis hosted called the Annual Lawn Party, where we had approximately 800 people for that event, and they raised thousands and thousands of dollars for a local charity. And this is just an architect's 3D model rendering of what the outdoor venue will look like with the stage in place and the number of events and whatnot that can be hosted there in even a bigger fashion than this transitional year. And then there are 2 parcels on the site that are what we call phase 3, which would be for community center type construction for potentially a library function, educational space for classrooms, and a large multi-purpose space. And so we're now working to try and advance that on the property as phase 3. Third project I'll mention is our fire stations. We went out to the public 4 or 5 years ago now and asked if they would support building a new fire station to replace one of our older stations and to renovate the other station. We have 2 fire stations on the island. So this image is of our brand new station that's up and operational now, which is on the south end, and on the north end we spent about $1 million or so to renovate that station. The total cost for that was just under $6 million. St. Regis is in the Sarasota County portion of the island, but it's going to have a significant impact to us. We're generally a built-out island. It's really hard to get additional density on the island, redevelopment, because if you want additional residential units, you have to go to the public first, and then you go to the commission. So it requires a referendum even to add 1 additional unit, and we have pretty significant height restrictions. The St. Regis was the old colony site, so if you think back where President Bush was staying during 9/11, historic site, historic resort. It was demolished a couple of years ago because of unsafe conditions. There were legal disputes between the 230-some owners of the various units on the property. All that's been resolved. We're actually now under construction. So you see it going up vertically, 18 acres on the Gulf of Mexico. The developer has said that that value of this project is going to be somewhere between $500 and $800 million, but it's a significant project. He's set a June 6, 2024 opening date for the St. Regis Hotel. So he's picked a date and said he'll work back from that. And this is just an image showing the completed project. So for us being a built-out island, this is really a pretty significant redevelopment project. And then Beach Nourishment, another big project for us. We just completed 1 million cubic yards of sand. We charge our residents, if you're on the Gulf side of GMD or State Road 789, you pay 80% of the cost. If you're on the Bay side, you pay 20% of the cost. And so we put out the 1 million cubic yards, but we also built 5 groins on the very north end. starting at Greer Island and working around to kind of preserve that northern end of the island, because that's where a lot of the pressure is as the currents go south. And so you can see in this image where the rock groins were installed, they were not fully backfilled yet by sand. Our sand sources were both passes on the north end of the island, the south end of the island, and also out off of Passage Key. Now you can see here that once the groins were installed and then they were backfilled with the sand, what that final product looks like. So it really significantly enhanced the recreational activity around Greer Island and on the north end of the island. We have a follow-up that we're working on, which we call our spit management plan, because a lot of that sand historically that we placed on the northern end of the island would pull into the pass and would grow this spit that was curving around and almost shutting off the lagoon that backs up to Greer Island. And it also starts to impact the Land's End dock there that's owned by the Michael Saunders family. And so we are, through permitting, now have signed permits from FDEP and the Army Corps to have an ongoing plan that we can remove that sand and bring it back around to the beaches on a recurring basis. So we call it our spit management plan. We also have, and you can see some of the smaller images, a lot of recreational activity that occurs right there near that dock and on that kind of eastern side of Greer Island. We get noise complaints, we get dog on the beach complaints, we get complaints about no place for the kayaks and the paddleboarders to land, and that sometimes the boats block access to the lagoon where there's private owners with docks. And so we're actually working with the FWC and have been coordinating with Manatee County about establishing some type of exclusion zone, swim area there, that'll hopefully find a balance to allow everything that's occurring now, but to occur in a little bit more organized fashion. So with that said, 5 quick items, just want to provide a highlight so you knew what we were working on when we were bored here on Longboat Key. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. The only thing I would like to add to Tom's presentation is that with respect to the Greer Island portion of the renourishment project we did, we had a contribution from Manatee County that helped make that project possible, and we thank you for it, but we thank you again. It helped us get that project done. And I know Tom has come and sat down, but I don't know if anyone has any questions for him. If you do, I see no questions, so we'll move on to item B2, Water Taxi Initiative Update. Elliot Falcione, Convention and Visitors Bureau Director.
Good afternoon. Really appreciate being here. It's important that we kind of keep you abreast of the initiative. We have talked to about half a dozen water taxi operators, and every one of them do not do business in the Sarasota-Bradenton area. With that, it took us a little bit of time to get them into the community because they were finishing up the spring season, being really busy. Where we're excited is they're really curious. They've had long-term success operating water taxis around the state of Florida. And we've actually met with a few recently, and Dr. Hopes has been part of some of those meetings as well. So where we're at is we have a couple water taxi companies coming into the community. Some have just recently come in. Some are coming in very soon to survey the waterways. You all know it, the landing spots that make sense, the accessibility channels, the depth. Parking, some locations may need parking, some locations may not need as much parking. Where people may want to get onto a boat or get off of a boat based on the amenities that are available to them. And also we've given them a lot of tourism information, data that is invaluable to them, and they're cross-checking it with their ridership demographics. Where do they come from? See if it aligns with our target market as well, their interest utilizing a water taxi and the seasonality of it. The exciting thing is we'll be meeting with water taxi operators, or at least 2, very soon to get some data based on their surveys that'll actually help define the type of watercraft that they would recommend. Honestly, we're probably looking in that 25 passenger to no more than 50 passenger water taxi, and ones that have an enclosed area for weather conditions. It's been really interesting. This is my first toe in the water. Chad Butzo And the transportation people have been around the table as well. Y'all would appreciate that the trolley up and down the island, the bus systems have to align with the water taxi route, or whatever that route might be. The media has been really excited. I've had more media calls about the water taxi than like when World Golf Championship came in. It's amazing, the enthusiasm. But we can't get emotional about it and move this so far down the road and potentially miss a step. We know, and Dr. Hopes would agree, this is going to be a public-private partnership, no doubt about it, one way or another. And that'll be figured out pretty soon. Most of the big water taxi companies have told me when they started, it took about almost 3 years to really ramp up and to have a full-blown, really good, sustainable system that has a good base of people most of the years. So, you know, they're coming from more dense communities, so we're really, really curious of what their findings will be as soon as they get back to us there. Now, thank you. Tom Harmer has really communicated really well with me on this. Of course, the city of Bradenton, Mayor Murphy invited me out, I guess almost a month ago, to give his city council an update as well. Of course, Mayor Shirley Bryant's on our TDC, and you know what's really, really exciting? When we mention the Marriott Hotel, maybe I'm leaving a little cat out of the bag, you will no longer see Sheraton on the side of the future hotel. Marriott has announced that it's going to be a full-service Marriott now. You talk about an enhancement to our urban core to Palmetto. We have special guests that just flew in, Lee Hancock and Leslie. Wave your hands, they're very humble people. They are the hotel owners, flanked by their son Chandler, an up-and-coming actor. He'll be better than me on stage. And then, of course, you all have met Tony DeRusso, the bearded guy, flanked on Lee's side. But when I mentioned to the water taxi operators the hotel with the convention center, I tell you what, they're really enthused about that. And that's where really Palmetto potentially adds to that route of, imagine a water taxi coming from here across to Bradenton and then out to the island. So stay tuned. We're on it. It's important that we don't miss a step. And we're being thorough. And I'm truly blessed to have Dr. Hopes around the table. He's got some really good ideas that most of us don't. So I think with the minds of Chad and Dr. Hopes and the water taxi operators and the elected officials, your role is really, really important. And I assured you all that we would keep you in step with us so there's no surprises. So stay tuned. We will meet individually with the cities once we gather some more information, and then I'll come back to you probably in a setting like this, hopefully very soon. And I'm open for any questions.
Anyone? All right, thanks very much, Elliot.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Next item on our agenda is affordable housing. This is a discussion topic. So who would like to lead it off?
Does this thing work? Yeah. I don't know if there's anything from a council of government, this is George Cruz, Manatee County. I don't know if there's anything meaningful. I think what we've been seeing recently is a lot of different organizations working within themselves and trying to individually work with groups. Manatee County, we just did a work session with City of Bradenton. We had a conversation about how do we work on our zoning together and our heights and densities together to facilitate affordable workforce housing and growth in general relative to our urban core. I know the school board, I believe you're working on your impact fee study right now. So I think that's kind of holding up that aspect because, I mean, one of the easiest ways, or maybe not easiest, but one of the best ways we could facilitate this is with waiving of impact fees and working with the developers to keep costs down. But until some of these impact fee studies are done, it's kind of a devil's in the details. It's harder to waive your current $6,000 plus than it is if you had it in a more tiered structure and it's a more nominal amount. So I think there's a lot of movement in Manatee County in terms of affordable housing. I think the consensus, both from everybody around this table and in all of our tables, as well as the public, is this is a critical component of the future of our community and something that needs to be dealt with today. But I think where we stand right now is everyone's kind of doing their own piece. I would say some of us from the county, I know everyone was invited, but some of us from the county are going to the Florida Housing Coalition annual conference the end of August. If anyone within your municipalities are interested, you should take a look. By all means, reach out to me. I'll send you the link and the information. I've been to it a few times. It's a great conference with a lot of information, a lot of elected officials talking about what they're doing in their communities. So it could be beneficial to everybody. But I think that's about the extent of the affordable housing update I have. Here's like an 8-hour YouTube video of an affordable housing discussion our collective board had, which you're more than welcome to go watch if you're looking to fall asleep or just want to see us talk for a while. But that's about it on my end.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Commissioner Cruz said it right. On the school district side, we are anxiously awaiting the conclusion of our impact fee study. It should be happening like I don't have said that straight up. It should be, our draft of our impact fee study should be available very soon. And as Commissioner Cruz said, that alignment of the county's structure and the school board structure for the purpose of, reduction or elimination of on our end, school impact fees for either a price point or a square footage or whatever the case may be. But, I'm kind of repeating from the last time I think I addressed you all was we're just waiting for that study, and that's our plan is to coordinate with the county to reduce those fees. There was one other topic on the school district side, which was the possibility of utilizing vacant school board properties to partner with a builder to build affordable housing for our employees. There, at this point, doesn't seem to be the will to do that on the school board just yet, because we haven't really moved forward on any of those ideas. But as always, we are continuing to listen to public comment, and we're open to whatever, in whatever way we can help. But like George said, we're just, until we get that impact fee study, that's the most immediate and impactful piece that the school board, I believe, has to offer. So, but I do want to express my appreciation to the county commission and the city of Bradenton. I did watch most of those 8 hours, and I did stay awake. But I thought, having been following this issue for a long time, that was the most in-depth and longest list of concrete ideas that I've seen come out of this conversation, probably ever. So kudos to the city and to the county commission for taking this head on. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to ask
Yes.
a question. Are you saying that the school district possibly has property that we can look at for affordable housing project? I mean, because if you're going to say that, and that's what we're here to meet for, let's talk about it.
Matt?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Bellamy, the school board does have vacant property, but there are a few factors that go into those properties. One, some of those properties are so far away from anything that they don't really make sense for affordable housing. Others of those properties are, there are size concerns. And then the third concern is we may need some of that property for future school sites. And so there's really, and this is just me speaking, this is not the superintendent, this is not the other board members. I think we really have 2 or 3 that are viable for, potentially a 15 to 20 unit type building. But the conversation's ongoing, but it's just kind of humming along right now. So we're not close to a decision point yet.
Well, okay, I see where this is going because when I'm seeing some of the school board members closing their eyes real tight like they're getting ready to enter a nightmare, I know what that means, so. But if there's an option, we would like to hear it. What we've been talking about, not just from the county perspective, but holistically, we need to identify if there is some land, whether it's 15 and 20 units or 1,500, 2,000 units. I mean, we need to look at whatever our options are so we can show the community as collective leaders we're concerned about the housing crisis and we're going to take some steps forward, collaborate and identify what we can do to address some of the concerns that are out there within this crisis.
Yes.
Can I respond?
Yes.
I'm Gina Messenger from the school board. We have had thoughtful conversations about it, but I believe one of the pieces of information that we did receive was from our attorney, which stated that land that we own really couldn't be used for a purpose not for schools. So that would mean that we'd either have to sell it or work out some sort of deal in order to make anything like that happen. I think that was where our conversations, I don't even know the right word to describe, but I think that was what hindered some of our conversations is what would be the best approach if there were a piece of land. We really couldn't become the landowner, the landlord, because it would not be a school use any longer.
Yes, sir.
No, I understand that, but that's why we have lawyers here. So we
Absolutely.
can identify, who can take up the land and how we can get the land developed. But I think this is a new development. I don't know, not the commissioners, Mr. Cruz, were you aware that and there's no options for us there?
Yes, George.
Thank you. No, there are options and there are pieces of land but it's the school board's land, it's not ours, and they can make whatever decision they want to make, and they're listening to their council. I know there's pieces next to Bayshore, you got Wakeland, you got the place over by the transit center right there. There are excess land that can be utilized. Some places like Bayshore, for instance, directly across the street from Boys and Girls Club, great access for after-school activity. It's on major infrastructure in terms of roadways. It's a solid location, and I'm guessing Bayshore is not going to be dramatically expanded anytime in the near future compared to, say, Palmetto and Lakewood Ranch and Parrish, which are all being expanded. So there are options, and again, I'm not an attorney. I think there would be solutions. You could ground lease out a portion of it. You could sell a portion of it, and like we're looking at with our land banking opportunities, we're looking at land banking, bifurcating the parcels, and putting deed restrictions in prior to turning around and selling it. In my opinion, just like we're doing with land banking, I would think you could go in there and basically say, work with us as the county, and if it's a piece of property in the city, work with the city as well. Work out an agreement so we have a mutual partnership here where we're waiving impact fees and you're selling off the land. We're putting deed restrictions saying 50% have to be workforce housing or affordable housing, and maybe even work it out saying a condition of the sale is 25% or whatever it is of those units get leased back to the school board at whatever it is, so you can use it to retain or recruit teachers going forward. So I would think there's some options. I think you have some great land that should be utilized, especially when you're talking about like your trans area. There's a 7-Eleven going in there. We're fixing the intersection there. There's expansions going there. It's right by 44th, so it's easy access back and forth to employment. So I think there's some options. But again, I'm not on your school board, and I don't expect the school board to tell us what to do with our land, nor would we tell you what to do with your land. But I think there's some options that I think the city, the county, the school board, everyone collectively would be more than happy to work together to facilitate it, even if it's 100% for teachers and school board and school support, because I've said it before, I think the school board has the biggest, most pressing need for affordable housing of anybody in Manatee County, because you have probably the most people who qualify for workforce housing based on the size of your employment base, not to mention the 1,000+ homeless students that could all certainly use a roof over their head and some good internet access when they're working from home. So I think everybody in this room would be more than happy to work with all of you on the school board to the extent we can get some land and facilitate that.
So I
Yes.
guess where I'm at, and I apologize, I don't normally talk that much, but here we
Go
go.
ahead, Mr.
We
Bellamy.
have two potential sites, with Bayshore and Wakeland. And I'm just curious what our next steps are for us to see, can we activate that conversation?
Yeah. Commissioner Bao?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Commissioner Cruz made some very good points, so did Commissioner Bellamy. I think we're at the point, the county is, and I think the city of Bradenton, where we are ready to take the next steps.
Yeah, what's the next step?
So I think what Commissioner Bellamy is really hoping for is that the school board will come along and get beside us and work together. Because as Commissioner Cruz said, the majority of people that we are looking at that need affordable housing, most of them, a lot of them work for the school system. So we're trying to find a solution. We're looking at all the land that we own to see how we can put it into a land trust and move it forward. And we would hope that maybe we could have let's say a joint meeting with the school board to discuss this situation to try and move us forward. Because we're at the point where we need to move and move rather quickly. We've lost a lot of time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Anyone else on this subject?
Right here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, we had a joint meeting not too long ago with the city and the county, and some of this was discussed. But I think the important part that we've got to realize is we got to think outside the box. And, we know that our monies in the city and the CRA can't be mixed with the county money, but some of the things we can do is maybe overlay districts, different ways to create more density when we're building some of the affordable workforce housing. Right now, we've got 3 projects that are, 2 of them are under construction. One of them will start probably by June. One of them, 199 units of affordable housing on 14th Street. One of them is actually going to hopefully see a building getting torn down pretty quick, which is 137 workforce housing, and then the other one is 80. But what we're doing in that 80 units is it's going up 5 stories because that's what the tax credits and the different things you can do. But we've got to work with our legislators to figure out how we can, go to 8 stories and get more units. And I know the cost and, they got to figure all that out. But if we can actually give them opportunity to build more units with some more density and height, it would help because, we're talking about a couple of 100 units that we're building. That's great that we're going to have them, but we need tens of thousands of units in this community. So we've got to figure a way to start, really thinking outside the box and working together. And I do know on these units that we're building in the city, there is already some impact fee credits, obviously from the city. The CRA is giving monies. The school board is doing some impact fee credits already because of the size of the units. So I think it's out there, but how do we get it going quicker? In today's paper, you've been reading about the Nashville model and all of that. So we can talk and we can talk and we can wait till August to talk again, but then we're that much farther behind. So we really need to start getting some of these studies done and working forward and getting some opportunity. I don't know exactly how to do it all, but there's a lot of smart minds in this room and a lot of smart minds in this community. And I think there's a lot of developers that will do things that if we just task them to do it, but we got to get them land. So, appreciate it. And I know our council has talked about this a lot and trying and working together, but we got some deep things to do ahead of us, but we appreciate the effort, and I think there's a lot of great people working towards it. So thank you.
Right, thanks. Anyone else on this subject? I don't see any more hands, so that concludes our formal agenda. Next item is public comment. Is anyone in the public who would like to speak? I think you would come up to the speaking post in the public section and identify yourself.
Andrew Griffin, Manatee County activist. So I appreciate you guys meeting regularly. I know there was one time when you guys weren't meeting so regularly, so I do appreciate that. I do feel, as a lifelong citizen from this county, being born in Manatee Memorial Hospital, and I say it in my BOCC meetings all the time, this county has taken on a life of its own. It's changed so much so. It is no longer affordable here. This used to be one of the most affordable areas in the state of Florida, and it's not that way anymore, and I really applaud each and every one of you for actually making the effort to address this. Because when I hear that residents in this county, 60% of them are homeless for the first time, that breaks my heart. And as a community member, and as you guys part of our government, it is up to the responsibility of both of us to work together, try to resolve it, and bring in the people needed to resolve those issues. So this is very concerning for me as a lifelong resident here that has many generations from this one county. I don't want to see my neighbors on the street. We need to petition our governor to start reducing some taxes on our gas. We are a community of retirees here. There's a lot of people that can't afford to be driving. They can't afford to go to their doctor. They're living on $900 Social Security. These are real issues that are facing Manatee County residents and the people that reside here. And so I just want to thank you. Anything that you guys can do to help that, please do. I implore you to do. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the topic of other comments by officials. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, it looks like this is going to be a quick meeting. So thank you very much. The next meeting of this council will be on August 2nd at 4 p.m. in this room. Thank you very much. We're adjourned at 4:40.